Holo Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, Bahasham Rahak Radash. Double honors to the elder apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, for teaching this word in truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered abroad, and peace and salutations to the sincere Akim that's pushing his word in truth and sincerity to USA Shalom. The U.S. government began releasing a significant collection of previously classified UFO, now officially termed unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UAPs. You know, as of May 8th of this year, Nero has decided to, release these quote unquote so-called UAP sightings, and it all spared from but it's all set up, but it's spared from interview Obama had, where he said, basically, there are quote unquote alien life. And I remember when he first said it, and Nero, he basically came back and said all that was classified information. He should be arrested for mentioning it. So now all of a sudden Nero wants to release it. But I also remember it's been mentioned on several occasions about what if, President Reagan said it, one of the Kennedys mentioned it, and the beginning of last year, they 2025, they released, I wouldn't say they released, but they had congressional hearings on it, and Congress was pretty much, afraid. They were questioning these different companies like Lockheed Martin and the contractors that worked with them about these quote unquote phenomenon. And mainly these contractors, they kept it on the hush hush, but they were mainly saying that they had signed disclosures, that they wouldn't speak on these things. And if they wanted that information, they would have to get in contact with these companies themselves. But as the AI overview states, this is ongoing declassification effort in order. This is ongoing declassification effort ordered by President Trump in part of a broader transparency initiative called Pursue, Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP encounters. The initial release consists of approximately 162 files from the Pentagon, FBI, NASA, and the State Department. Key highlights of the released files was the Apollo mission records, documents and transcripts from the Apollo 11, 12, and 17 missions, included astronaut accounts of mysterious lights, 3 dots in a triangular formation near the lunar surface, recent sightings, infrared video image from military platforms in 2024 and 2025 captured unresolved phenomenon over Iraq, Syria, Africa, and the United Arab Emirates. Witness testimonies reports include accounts of inverted teardrop-shaped crafts and a linear object with bands of lights that appeared to vanish after 5 to 10 seconds. And then historical memos scanned material dating back to the late 1940s, including a 1947 report of flying discs and a 1963 memo discussing potential preparations for encountering extraterrestrial life. So, you know, they're going to give you a lot of folly, you know, stating that they're little green men and things of that nature. They're going to give you folly, saying that they're lizard people that live underneath the ground. There's a lot of different speculations on what they encountered or what they seen, but they give it to you all in folly. And if you notice, Esau always give you a lot of folly in their works, and they'll bring it out through their movies and TV shows. You know, Independence Day and Encounter of the Third Kind and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and you know, they give it to you in all sorts of different forms in their entertainment. The X-Files. So, you know, they try to make folly of it, you know. So the people really look at it in a made up sense. You know, they look at it as cartoonish, you know. You know what I'm saying? I've even spoken to people that, oh, I don't believe in aliens. You know, I don't believe in that, but, you know, I believe in the scriptures, whatever the scriptures say. But the scriptures clearly talk about your so-called UFO and your so-called UAPs. But, you know, this Christianity thing, man, is going to get a lot of people killed, you know, because you deal with folly, you know, instead of, you know, doing due diligence, research, reading and pulling up words. You'll sit there and, you know, try to have your own understanding. But throughout the scriptures, it talks about your so-called UFOs and UAPs. That's what kind of what Ezekiel, you know what I'm saying? That's exactly what Ezekiel saw, you know. This is Ezekiel 1, verse 3 and 4. The word of the Lord Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, came expressly unto Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzai, in the land of the Chaldeans, by the river of Chabar. And the hand of the Lord Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, was there upon him. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out the midst thereof, as the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire. So, you know, when you look up the word whirlwind, it pretty much describes a tornado. We'll pull it up real quick. Ezekiel 1. Ezekiel 1 and 4 in the interlinear, when you go into the word whirlwind.
Strong's H 7307. Ruach.
And it describes wind, breath, mind, spirit, you know. Breath is the first, wind. Then you have 2A of heaven, 2B, quarter of wind, side. You have breath of air, gas, vein, empty thing. It goes into the spirit, as which breaths quickly in animation or agitation. spirit of the living, breathing being in man and animals. The spirit, a set or organ of mental acts, rarely of the will, a seat especially of moral character. The spirit of God, spirit of power. The third person of the triune. You know, Christianity has a whole bunch of different ways of going about it, but it's pretty much Yahawah, His only begotten Son, Yahawashi, and the Holy Spirit. But when you go into the root of the word,
Strong's H 7306. Ruach.
it really doesn't have much in it, you know. But it goes into smell, scent, odors, of horse, of delight. Delight is a metaphor, but it basically goes into when you kind of think of it in a carnal sense, it's a wind. So when you think of a whirlwind, you kind of think of a tornado. But in this case, it's speaking of, you know, that air that would come from, like, you know, like an exhaust. Because like when you really think about the scriptures and when you think about whirlwind, in cases it is talking about people getting like tossed around, or, you know, I wouldn't say tossed around, but you'll see where it talks about a wind, like a tornado type of wind. And then when it talks about the chariots, you'll hear of it and you can almost think of it as an exhaust, you know, because the chariots are hidden within the clouds, unless they make themselves visible to you. You know, they're kind of hidden within the clouds, and that's how we were guided through the wilderness when we was exited out of Egypt. You know, the Lord, He covered us, you know what I'm saying, as a pillar of fire and a pillar of light, you know. So when we get to that, we're gonna get to that scripture and you go into it, you know, because when people think about the Lord riding on a chariot, you know what I'm saying, in the cloud, they thinking that he's actually riding the cloud, you know. That's the folly of Esau, you know what I'm saying? Like, he'll just give you these weird ass narratives, and it really doesn't, you know, it's not practical. It doesn't make sense. Even though, you know, our thoughts are not his thoughts, his ways are not our ways. But the description of the chariots, you know, you pretty much you can envision them being hidden within the clouds, unless they're being, you know what I'm saying, unless they make themselves known to you. You know, they come out of the clouds and you can see them. You know, I do believe I saw a few chariots, you know, and there was one in particular. I would see it every morning in the same spot, you know. It'll just be sitting there early morning as I'm going to work, and it'll just be sitting there, you know, towards the east. And it was there I would see it there for about 2 weeks, you know. And then all of a sudden it's not there anymore, you know. It almost looked like you could see, it's almost like the way you see a star, you know. It's just sitting there shining bright, and it was sitting there shining bright in the early morning, but the sunrise is already sunrise, you know, and it's just be bright just sitting there. And this is when I first started coming into the truth. And then all of a sudden, like when I walk that way now, it's just not there. no matter what time of the day. There's not a star, it's nothing there no more. So I do believe that I pretty much saw a chariot for those 2 weeks. It would just be sitting there. So like, they want to give you a narrative that these beings are little green men, and that's the narrative that they've been giving people for the longest, man. Almost, you know what I'm saying? I want to say over 100 years, or close to 100 years. That's the narrative that they've been giving you. That either it's a made up fictional story, or it's little green men, or it's part of these lizard people. That it's just folly. But now you can't avoid it, man, because the Lord is making this thing. He's speeding up time, and he's pushing these prophecies through, and he's putting the spirit on these people to come clean, or at least give you a make it known that that these things exist, that they exist, that that the Lord exists, but they're gonna give it to you in folly. This is Second Kings chapter 2 verse 11 and 12. And it came to pass, as they went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire. Horses meaning horsepower, man, because that's the same terminology that they use when they talk about power in the sense of horses. So the chariots, illuminated with fire, that's pretty much your exhaust. It's not saying like it struck down with fire, but it illuminated with fire. So these things, these chariots have power, and is shown through, like you would say, its exhaust systems. A chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. So what they were witnessing was the Lord, taking up Elijah, and that whirlwind, like say if when you look at a plane and that power that it uses to bring in air, like through its propellers, there's on the back end you'll feel that air, like there's what you would call, I guess, propulsion. But when something is hovering, an exhaust comes out, and we won't truly know until we see, until the Lord's return. But as it's being described as such. And as that exhaust is coming out, at the same time is taking Elijah up. So there's no real way for them to describe it, because they had never seen anything like that. They had they had nothing to compare it to. So this is how they explained it. Verse 12, and Elias saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more, and he took hold of his own clothes and rent them in two pieces. So basically, Elias witnessed Elijah being taken up, and he rent his clothes. He pretty much tore his clothes, You know, praising the Lord. They lamenting and praising the Lord. Mark 24:30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. Yeah, because they're gonna know that the Lord is true. Those who didn't believe, those gonna see his true nature, who thought he was that blonde haired, blue eyed demon that you call Caesar Borgia. You know what I'm saying? That's named after Caesar Borgia. You know, JC. Those who think that's what he looked like, you're gonna be sadly mistaken, because the Lord was clearly described in the scriptures, described in Revelation. He was described in Daniel. So the tribes of the earth gonna mourn, because they're gonna know, you know what I'm saying, that all this wickedness that they've been running around doing is gonna be up, is over. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So, you know, when you think about power coming from the sky, you're thinking about, you know, lightning. But, you know, they also describe that power as being fire, a whirlwind, you know, air coming from it, you know. And it's going to be a glorious day, because we're going to be realigned with our power. Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Let's see, you can go into Mark 13:26. And then they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with power and glory. And then shall he send his angels, and shall gather together his elect. There we go again, y'all. Everybody thinks that the Lord is going to come back and deliver everybody. That's a negative. He's coming back for his people. He's coming back for his people, which are Israelites, which is made up of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And that's going to be 1/3. That's his elect. And he shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven. So, you know, the uttermost part of the earth is here in Babylon. Because when you look at after the flood with Noah and his sons, they had their land. Shem had that Levant area, which is the so-called Middle East. Japheth had all of Asia, and Ham had all of what you would call Africa. So the uttermost part of the earth is talking about over here, because this place wasn't inhabited. It was just over here was just, you know, pretty much grass, woodland areas, and, you know, forests, and a lot of resources. And you probably had animals. I'm pretty sure you had animals over here, a diverse set of animals. But this is the uttermost part of the earth when you're talking about these scriptures, because it wasn't inhabited over here. There was nobody living over here in Babylon, which is aka America. To the uttermost part of heaven. The uttermost part of heaven, you know, that's going back into our land. Salakia, I meant to say the chariots, man. You're gonna be taken into the uttermost part of heaven. Is them chariots. You're gonna be delivered out of this madness that's gonna happen here. You know, that's gonna happen during the nuclear destruction. When those heathen nations send their warheads via missile over here to Babylon, is going to be destroyed. There's going to be a lake of fire. And that's when the Lord going to deliver his people. You know, he's going to deliver them out of that what you will call a great hell, what you will call a great torment. They're not going to, his elect won't face that nuclear destruction, but 2/3 of our people will, because of their continued disobedience, not coming back to the Most High Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. But people going to see his glory, man, and it's not going to be little green men. Those men are Israelites. Those are angels. The Lord's angels, and they look just like you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in their true form, which is swarthy people, dark-skinned people. But anyway, continuing on, you got a lot of folly that goes into these, into this subject. And it just shows you how far Esau will go in order to keep the Lord's children, the Lord's children of promise in darkness. Keep them from not understanding who they are, who their power is. And this is part of it, man. This is all part of his deception. He's a forger of lies. He's a physician of no value. That's Job 13:4. So, we just waiting upon the Lord's return, man. And it's starting to come out, that the Lord's chariots are real. And it's been, and you can see it in the icons, the Russian icons, the icons of Russia. They have depictions of these so-called UFOs and UAPs. They have depictions of the Lord's chariots when they shined the light on Yahawashi when he was a baby. When he was sitting there with Mary, and you could see the light. It was illustrated as a light that beamed on Yahawashi from a chariot. Because it didn't, like, when you look at the picture, it doesn't go straight into the sky. It goes straight up into an object, a saucer-shaped object, which that's the Lord's chariots. Psalms 60, 68, and 17. The chariots of power are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. So that's that pillar of fire that shielded us and guided us in the night. Shielded us during the day and guided us in the night. That's the Lord's chariots. Don't be fooled. Don't be hoodwinked into believing that they're little green men. Daniel 7:13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. So this is how the Lord gets around. This is his vehicle. This is how they move about what you would call the solar system. They've seen it. There's a video out there with what's this guy's name? Salakia, give me one sec. His name is Norman R. Bergrun. Dr. Norman R. Berggren. You know, he was a research scientist for NACA, which is NASA's predecessor. It's like a subsidiary of NASA or another agency of NASA. You know, he worked with Lockheed Martin, you know, and Lockheed Missiles and something called the Space Company. He published a book back in 1986. And he described what he saw, and it was a cigar-shaped spacecraft. You know, he made a book. The name was the rings of Saturn, I believe, because he called it that because it was operating in the rings of Saturn. That's where he saw it, you know. And it kind of coincides with what you would call what is it, a 3-eye atlas, and it's a cigar-shaped ship, you know, or they claim it as a comet, you know, some type of rock structure that's being seen in the galaxy, you know, being seen out in space. I've been on a few websites where I believe they were NASA websites. I looked at it a while back, and it kind of showed you what it looked like. It looked like a cigar-shaped ship, you know, but it kind of looked like a rock formation. But it was like a kind of like oval shaped, long, and on that website it would tell you that at times you would see propulsion coming from it. You would see that power that talking about, that horsepower, you know what I'm saying, that the horses you would see would come out, you know what I'm saying, it would come out with lights too, so it would light up in different circular areas, like the different areas of that formation. It would light up just like little circles, and you would see a propulsion come from it. So, you know, these people know that the Lord is out there. They know that these ships are out there, and they're scared, you know, because they know they only have but a short time, man. They know their time is up, man. These Edomites know, they're top level Edomites. They know, top elites. They know that their time is up, and they can't do nothing about it, you know. And recently within the last few years, they've been offering these different research scientists that deals with that, you know, different research scientists that deal with space and nuclear power. They've been offering them. They've been taking them off. They've been taking them off of here. They've been taking them out because these people have seen something. You just don't knock people down because they do, you know what I'm saying? Edomites are destructive like that, but, you know, they knocking these people off because they've seen something, and maybe they've threatened to you know, talk about it. But one thing you notice with these wicked ass Edomites is that if you're not on their team, you know, 100%, man, they're gonna knock you off of here, man. They're gonna take you out. They're gonna kill you, man. So 11 scientists who have seen something and know something is out there. They've been taking them out, man, and they can't you know, they can't hide this but for so long, man, because the Lord is doing a magnificent work, man. You're starting to see the plagues. You see plagues brewing. You see pestilence brewing. Famine is right around the corner. Sedition among men is around the corner. Insurrection is around the corner. That MOTB is around the corner, and that nuclear fire, that nuclear war. We are in World War III. We moving slowly into that insurrection, man. We moving slowly into that launching of these nuclear missiles, man. And they could try to hide it. They could try to prolong it as much as they can. But once the Lord is put these things in motion, man, you're gonna do nothing but the will of the Lord, man. Man's going is of the Lord, So you think you have free will, you don't. The Lord makes all these things happen, man. This is Zechariah 5, verses 1 and 2. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits. So when you look up how much a cubic is, man, a cubic is about 18 inches. So that's a little over a foot, almost going on 2 feet. So you times that by what, 20? You have 30 feet or a little over 30 feet in length. We can go to it and look it up. Zechariah 5. Once again, you can go into the interlinear. You can get these words in the Hebrew or in the Greek, depending on what book you're in. So when you look up a cubic, a measure of distance, approximately the forearm length, roughly 18 inches, 0.5 meters. So 18 inches, (18 times 30), that's 20. That's 36 feet, man. So it's about 36 feet in length. And look up what a breadth is. That's your width. So your width is 10 cubits. So that's 30 feet in length, 20 feet in width. So that's what he saw. He saw a chariot. And that's how big the chariot was. So people can play this game and just denounce what the scripture is actually saying, man, and it gives you an idea of exactly what our people saw back then, what the prophet saw. So this is what that flying roll, that would be your cigar-shaped ship, But our people just, they like to play games, man, and they like to be told how to think, They like to be programmed, man, and until Esau tell them, just like the apostles say, man, until Esau tell them you are Israelites, until Esau tell you, these things are real, you won't believe it, But The Lord is coming. And our people need to get ready for that. You know, the Lord's elect, once he seal his elect, man, this thing is over with, man. And it kind of, you get the sense that he has sealed his elect, because now you're starting to see these things really happen. You're starting to see all these prophecies starting to really play itself out. And no lie, I can't wait till the Lord comes back and pretty much destroys Babylon, because this place needs to go. This is Isaiah 66:15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. Verse 16. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, plead with all flesh. Plead means judge. He's going to judge. He's going to judge the people. And the slain of the Lord Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, shall be many. So there's going to be a lot of death on that day, man. Everybody that's in Babylon, man, you're done, man. If you're not of the Lord's elect, man, you're finished. Isaiah 60:8. Who are these that fly as a cloud and as the doves to their windows? And describing more chariots, man. It's describing how the chariot hides itself within the clouds, But the Lord ain't playing, man. He gonna come back, man, and a lot of people gonna be frightened on that day, man, because they not gonna understand what's going on. They just gonna see these huge ships, man, and it's gonna make the sky dark, And what's gonna come out them ships, man? It's gonna be angels. There's gonna be some fire, like laser beam fire, to add on to those nuclear warheads, man, to turn this place into a lake of fire. This place is actually finished, man. And good riddance, man. Get rid of Babylon and all these heathens, man, that take part in this shit. Because like this place is every day growing more and more and more and more and more and more wicked. You see the demons on people every day. They like people are compiling demons on top of demons, So the Lord just gotta take this place out, man, and in due time, man, it soon come, man. In due time, man, like the Lord just gonna finish this place. And just like it said in Psalms 68:17, the chariots of God, the chariots of power, are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. So when this place is about to go up and go up in fire, you're gonna see thousands and thousands of chariots. You're gonna see thousands and thousands of angels. And the Lord's elect is gonna be delivered in that time. So the Lord is coming back, and it's just a matter of time before this place is truly finished, and we're put back into our rightful place in our rightful land. Call Halal Yahawah, Bahasham Yahawashi, Bahasham Radash, Abad Babal.